Hello everyone, CJ here. Welcome to another episode of Open the World Map. This time I am interviewing Mháire from the German YouTube gaming channel Orkenspalter TV, and also Sebastian, a D&D beginner who I dragged in to give us a layman's perspective on the D&D scene in Germany. Before I start the video, I must apologize for the lack of audio on my side. Because of technical difficulties, most of my audio is lost. But luckily, Mháire and Sebastian's audio are all perfectly intact. And here is another apology to Mháire, because I may have mispronounced the name of the channel.
It's one of these long German words. It's Orkenspalter TV.
Hello, I'm Sebastian from Germany, 29 years old, and I play D&D for a year now, so pretty new.
It is. I think it has changed over time, coming a little bit in waves. It was very big, I think, during AD&D second edition, third and 3.5, and it has waned with fourth because there was very little that was actually on the German market available. But I think the fifth edition has given it a really new kick. And I see it a lot more often on conventions now. I know more people who play it. I don't have statistics ready, to be honest. But yeah, it has become a lot more popular again over the last years.
Well, we really didn't plan to play 5th edition. I started 1 year ago playing regularly. Before that, I had one session DSA, the German version of D&D.
It's not. That's kind of a cute and a strange story. There's one role-playing game in Germany that's always been bigger than D&D, and the reason for that is that D&D was too costly for the people who wanted to do it in Germany in the first place. In 1984, there was a big publisher who wanted to do D&D, and TSR said, "Yeah, this is what we want to have for the license." And the publisher said, we can do our own game and we can push them out of the market. And then they created the Dark Eye using the people who were translating D&D for someone else. So they did D&D and the Dark Eye at the same time. And they tried to do it as differently as they could from D&D so they couldn't be sued. So yes, you use a D20, but you roll low, you don't roll high, things like that. And since then it has grown since 1984. So more than 30 years now. So, and it's a lot different from D&D now since it's been expanded upon a lot. And it has one world in which it plays, which has been developed in a depth and in detail that I think very, very, very few other gaming worlds can rival. So I think it's like D&D in the sense of that it is the popular role-playing game in Germany. And that is the unique thing in Germany, because in 1984 someone was very spiteful and tried to get D&D out of the market by doing their own product. And yes, it has survived for this long. And I think in Germany most people, like Sebastian, they start off with the Dark Eye or Das Schwarze Auge. And then they diversify and find their own game. It's kind of the thing on the market. I think there's one thing it does differently, and on that field it is kind of stronger than D&D, and that is the world building. That is the one world that everyone has been playing in for more than 30 years, and where there's been kind of almost a soap opera thing going on with big NPCs and things that have happened on the main continent. And yes, of course, there are different campaign worlds for D&D that are much beloved and that have their own history. And I think I've got the history of the Forgotten Realms somewhere here, and it's like this small of a book. And that's nothing on the Historia Aventurica, which is this more than letter-sized huge book that kind of tries to cover the whole history of Aventuria, the continent of the Dark Eye. So that's where its strength is, in the depth of the background, I think. Not in the rules, if you ask me. D&D has always been much faster than the Dark Eye. For instance, the last edition of the Dark Eye, which has been edition 4.1, so an update to the fourth, it could take you a whole day to just create a character, and it could take you hours to play a single combat, and the rules were so convoluted at some point that I think everyone was. Not everyone. There's always people who loathe the new edition of the game, but many people were thankful for just cutting that off and trying anew. And I've always liked to play D&D just because it was faster, because it also feels familiar, because D&D games, computer games, have also been big in Germany, and many people have migrated over from there, and because it opens up more possibilities, because the Dark Eye tries to be low fantasy. It does have its high fantasy storylines and situations, but mostly player characters are relegated to just watching those things happen. And in D&D, I can just make my own world, and my heroes can be the ones who are the big characters. And just the freedom to create and to do big things has always been something that drew me to D&D. I think, compared to you, it's ridiculously easy. Because Germany is very densely settled, and I live basically in a forested mountain area, but I get in my car and it takes me less than an hour to be in Frankfurt, where there's several gaming stores. And there's a lot of close-knit online communities where people find new groups to play with. And I thought coming here, it would be hard to find people to play with, but actually it's been quite easy. I do have kind of the boost of being a little bit popular in the gaming scene thanks to a YouTube channel. So people want to play with me, which is a bonus. But yes, I think it's actually quite easy. Most people play in German, of course, because we're German. Yes, but almost every German learns English at least at a level where they're competent enough to hold a conversation. And everyone in the gaming community, as far as I have seen things happen on conventions and have been part of different gaming groups, are very friendly and very happy and open to find gamers from other places, and they always try to accommodate them and switch to English. I play a lot with a friend of mine who's British, and we always play in English because he does know German, but it's of course easier for him. For me, it's also a little bit afraid, because it adds another step of abstraction, kind of, to play in not your native language, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to actually immerse myself in a character or in a description of the world. But I think I'm weird.
No, we started like searching for people 2 years ago, but well, sometimes you find people when they go off and do something else, don't want to play and stuff. So that got delayed a bit, but at some point we found one more guy. So well, we started playing with one GM, which took also the role of a player too. We started the starter campaign, Minds of Fenderlin, is it called? I guess.
Yes, it's not a big thing in Germany. There's a few gaming stores who signed up for it, but there's not a lot of events. And I, seeing the questions you sent me that you wanted to talk about Adventurers League, I also started asking around a little bit and looking for things. And it seems that there are only very few places and people who offer anything for the Adventurers League. It seems to me, at least, that mostly the gaming shops sign up for it to get goodies, and then rarely anything ever happens. So in Germany, it's really mostly peer-to-peer. I can say what I believe, but Sebastian could probably answer what actually is it that drives new players to D&D and to role playing. I think it's in part, of course, the YouTubers, international and national.
Okay, yeah, Sebastian, what do you think?
So me and a friend, we played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, of course. This was one point we decided to play D&D, but my idea of playing tabletop games were Rocket Beans TV.
Yeah, Rocket Beans is kind of a big number in online TV in Germany, because they are mostly people who actually come from proper TV and from the digital gaming community. So they have a huge fan base. And at some point over the last, I think, 4 or 5 years, they started doing tabletop role playing in shows, and they write their own settings and rules. They have one pretty experienced game master who takes care of all that stuff with them, and it's a lot of personality, because they've got their fan base, and it's more like we're doing this hobby that you might not know, and we're being funny while doing it, but it has introduced a lot of people to the hobby who didn't know about it before. I think Rocket Beans is the biggest one. I pride myself in the fact that every now and then people come to me and say, I saw one of your actual plays and liked it. And on our YouTube channel, we try to do kind of crossovers of different fan bases, because we do stuff about comics and graphic novels, and also about board games, and then about tabletop role-playing games. And we try to always introduce one hobby to the other fandoms and kind of get a crossover, although there's already a lot of people who are part of all the fandoms. And there's a few other YouTubers, but I think after the League of Rocket Beans, who are huge, we are one of the biggest ones. I think right at the time it's actually mostly US media and a little bit of British TV shows and productions, but yes, we're pretty much steeped in American geek culture, considering that. So series and movies, of course, the comic book movies from the US are really big over here, but I think most people in the gaming community, and Sebastian's and my age, we also grew up on anime, because there were some TV channels and programs who regularly showed different anime shows. So that's also part of the community, but I don't think as strongly as in some other parts of the world. And in some cases, it's also novels, because Germany still is a place where there's a lot of novels sold and a lot of books read. Sadly, it's not graphic novels. That's more niche things still, I think. Yes, Tolkien heavily borrowed, of course, from bits of that, yeah. The Alps, and yes, but most people have kind of just taken over the Tolkien-esque version of all those creatures, and I think most people are not influenced by the fairy tales, and even less people by the original sources like the Edda, or also the big sagas that are part of kind of the German story tradition. There are smaller role-playing games and communities and people who borrow from that too, yes, but it's not mainstream. What sometimes is a bit weird is to see characters like Thor, or generally the Germanic gods and those characters as pop culture icons, or as part of a D&D campaign, as I'm a paladin of Thor. What? That is weird, because there actually are people, not only in Germany, but quite a lot of them in Germany, who call themselves Asatru, and it's a neo-pagan thing, and they found their spirituality in Norse mythology and in Norse gods. And I think for them it's actually kind of weird. There is a crossover, but I know, I think I know more tabletop role players that also do LARP than LARPers that crossed over into tabletop role playing. There, on things like Conquest of Mythodia and Dragonfest, there are lots of people who've never tried tabletop role playing. So it is in a way a separate community, but there is also, I think, a crossover that is at least around 50%-ish. It's hard to tell. I didn't do statistics on this. But what there is that some people are very passionate about certain gaming systems and do LARPing just in those, especially for the dark eye. There's a thriving small LARPing community where people only play in the world of the dark eye. Call of Cthulhu has always been big in Germany. Shadowrun was very big in the 90s, early 2000s. I think it's a little less popular now. There's a few universal game systems that are very big. Fate, Savage Worlds used to, and right now people are talking a lot about, because it's just been announced that there's going to be a new edition, and the licensee in Germany has changed, so people are looking forward to that. So some of those... Sebastian, yeah. What else is really big in Germany? I think I'm also kind of... do you have a slight myopic look at this? Because I'm working with different systems every day, and for me, they're all kind of popular, but I didn't know which are really mass popular.
Well, I know that Cthulhu is pretty big, as you said, and well, beside that, Fate, Shadowrun, but besides that, I wouldn't call other rule sets really popular.
Would you say that
Warhammer
Split
maybe?
is popular? Oh, Warhammer, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Pathfinder. I don't know. There's a lot of things on the market for Pathfinder. Of course, not everything's translated, but the licensee for it is trying to bring the biggest things. And there's a crowdfunding for different adventure paths every few months. So yes, there is a devout, I'd call it, community of Pathfinder players in Germany. But I think it's lost players to D&D 5, to be honest. Orkenspalter TV. Orkenspalter means Orc Cleaver. We also do a lot of previews of English books because, of course, we do have our own German scene and lots of translations, and also genuinely German books and systems up there. So it's one which is also popular in Germany, which has not been translated as far as I know, or only kind of quick starter rules, is Splittermond, which is also just like the Dark Eye was meant to be not D&D. Splittermond is a little bit of not the Dark Eye, because lots of people who wrote for the Dark Eye have switched over to Splittermond. So it's the same people doing a new game in a kind of way. So, but most, as I told you, most Germans do know English, at least on a working level. And so many people buy English books, and there's a few people who are specializing in importing those books and reselling them, who are a boon to the community, honestly. So yes, we do previews of English books, and yes, sometimes it's like we never know when it's going to be out in German. Or it may never be out in German. But there is a community there who's buying those books and who are happy to have them, because some things are too small, too niche, or too strange and weird to get a publisher in Germany. So for one thing, we've started to kind of regularly do updates on Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which doesn't have a German version, but there's a fandom and there's people who are playing it, and we do updates and books for the system and things like that. And we did we do updates on a lot of Kickstarters and crowdfundings of all kind for tabletop role playing, and most of them, of course, are in English. And so we try to introduce our community to them early on, and we also do reviews as soon as we get the books. My DMing secret is the fact that I'm pretty proud of it. actually pretty good at improvising, which is a good thing because I'm not very good at preparing. So I've been honored to have been asked by one of the biggest publishers of gaming literature in Germany to write a book about DMing. And I've tried to put the formula in words, which makes it easier to come back to it right now. So I'm kind of prepared to improvise. And one of my rules of thumb is to use 2/3 archetype and 1/3 things that surprise you for places, for organizations, for situations, and especially for non-player characters. So my special ingredient is coming up on the fly with memorable NPC characters. And we also do actual plays and have some different campaigns running. And some of the most beloved NPCs in this series are ones that I had to come up in a second because people have been asking, who's the person over there? Or can we have someone help us out with this? And then I'm going, their name is, and then throw in 2 things that you would expect of the person and 1 thing that is weird. And it works. So
Yeah, it's basically what Mháire was saying. It's about coming up with ideas on the fly while playing, and telling a story. Like, not the GM tells a story alone. It's more like you create story with all the players and the GM together and having fun. That's mostly my drive to play.
And that was Mháire and Sebastian. You can find the link to her channel in the description below. Before I end the video, let me give thanks to my Patreon supporters for supporting this series. If you like what I'm doing, consider joining Patreon so that you can also ask questions to our future interviewee. Subscribe to the channel and remember to click on future videos so that you can open the world map as we explore tabletop RPG cultures from all around the world. CJ, over and out.